The Chang International Circuit at Buriram in Thailand. 12 corners, 4.554 kilometres. Plenty of fun to be had, as you can see, twisting around the lakes. Grandstand filling up, and so is the tension.
Blancpain GT Series Asia coming to you from the land of smiles here, Thailand. Buriram setting the scene for some incredible racing today. Now, there's 29 cars lining up for GT3 and GT4. GT4 is incredible. 10 cars will be starting today. My name is Renai Masu. I'm joined by our commentator, a voice you'll recognize, Bruce Jones. Bruce, I mean, it's been great, hasn't it? We saw the GT3 and the GT4 being won by Mercedes yesterday, but that's not exactly a sure thing.
There is nothing that's a given, Renai. The racing here is fantastic. We had 4 makes of cars in the top 4 positions yesterday, and we had a 5th make that could have won the race but didn't for one particular reason, which I'll touch on later. It's a fantastic mix, but don't forget, today the driver that started first will start second, so we've got different starting drivers today. We're going to have a whole new story.
And it's been incredible to be in Thailand with so many fans.
The fans are truly phenomenal. You can hear the hubbub behind. We've had them just cleared out of the pit lane. Many are going to come down. The VIPs on the grid. OD Racing have brought, it seems like, 40,000 people. The passion is phenomenal, and it powers the drivers, it powers the pit crews and us as well. It gives us a real buzz, and it's wonderful.
I'm excited for it. What can they expect?
Well, it's a 1-hour race. We have a driver change roughly halfway through. That changed the order a lot yesterday, and the Lamborghini, number 19, had worked his way into the lead of the race. Really great job. But unfortunately, they were at the standstill 1 second too few and got a drive-through penalty. Ended up down in 5th. So expect more from them. A really good driver lineup. Dennis Lind and Martin Kodrick could be today's winners.
We'll keep an eye on it. Enjoy the racing today. I'll let you get back to your seat up in the commentary booth. Now, Bruce is going to be guiding us through everything today. It's been an incredible place. Buriram is one exciting place to come racing, and I got to look around at it yesterday.
The city of happiness, northeastern Thailand bordering on Cambodia. A 6.5-hour journey from Bangkok, yet in the middle of the country, you have this. Chang International Circuit, the destination of speed. And this weekend, as Blancpain GT Series Asia comes to town, car 911 is the one to watch as it carries the home favorite.
It feels great, really. It's both something that makes me nervous because of all the Thai fans that are coming to watch, but also something that gives me motivation because I feel comfortable at home, and it's a pleasure racing here.
The circuit has been designed to F1 standards. MotoGP is already here too, and for the Thai driving hero, having the facility is a massive boost.
I think having a facility like this in Thailand is great for Thai motorsports because before there wasn't really a home for it, but now we have an established home here in Buriram, and I'm very proud to say that this circuit is top level. Everything is as high a standard as it would be in Europe. So having that here at home is something truly special.
At the start, we built small, but the circuit has expanded to meet the owner's vision of building the best circuit ever. That is why Chang International Circuit was born. For Kun Yuin Chichok, everything must be the best.
Thai driver on a Thai circuit, but will it be a Thai flag flying above the podium? A great weekend of racing ahead of us in what will be a surprising location for some.
Now, this is one heck of a track. The fans are in for a good day of racing today. It's really awesome track to be as a fan because you can see all of the action pretty much from anywhere, and there's plenty of opportunities for cars to overtake. It's very exciting, as you can see, because we're going to have a look back at the highlights from race 3.
conditions are nicer now at the end, but it was hot, humid, slightly breezy, which is a good thing down on the grid in the countdown to the start. And the Ferrari on the right-hand side with Leo Yi really waited second on the grid. As you can see, running down to turn 1, back in 4th place, and pushing very hard indeed was number 3, Martin Rump at the start. But it was a 999 Mercedes in the lead of the race. There it tended to stay with Patrick Niederhauser at the wheel. Challenged through the course of the race by the Lamborghini, pushing very hard in the early stages. Number 19, Dennis Lind, doing the pushing. In GT4 it was BMW ahead of Mercedes, but not always in that order. And then a big problem for Alexander Matchell, who'd just taken over the 888, well, he driving the 888 Mercedes before handing over to Maxi Book, but unfortunately that slow, smoky puncture brought out a full course yellow because there was debris in the track, probably off the Mercedes. Beautifully, look at that sprint and retrieve manoeuvre. Moving out the 888 out of the, not out of the running, but out of the reckoning after that long pit stop. And around the outside of a sister Lamborghini from AMAC Motorsport went the 19 car. That's the long way round. That cost him a bit of time. Dennis Lind, GT4. It was the 666 Reinhold Renger Mercedes that moved ahead of the better placed of the BMWs and took the lead in the class. But nobody seemed to have the answer to Patrick Niederhauser, really running in very good order at the front of the race. Then came the time of the pit stops. That was the KCMG Audi, and the 19 Lamborghini was the first of the front runners to blink. Dennis Lind brought it in, and Martin Kodrick went out and closed the disadvantage, closed the gap from 3.5 seconds to about 1.5 seconds on the Mercedes. And the Mercedes had been slightly hampered in the course of its pit stop, in fact by its sister car, this one here, the 666 Mercedes of Reinhold Renger. And so when we had Marcus Pommer taking over from Patrick Niederhauser, he lost those couple of seconds. That's what really allowed the Lamborghini to close right in. There, unfortunately, was the change of order, because there was the spin for Reinhold Renger, and he went round, looked down the bottom right-hand corner of the back of the car, under tray hanging down. That was the damage from going over the curbs on the spin. He'd lost the lead in the class, but then the GT4 BMW that took the lead had to have a drive-through penalty, so he took the lead back all over again. And then this was the lead battle. Martin Kodrick in the Lamborghini, he managed to jump Pommer's Mercedes when they came across a GT4 backmarker. There's one getting it rather wrong. That's the Cayman from Unix Racing Team, and that's why the Lamborghini got in front. Then Nick Foster, 3.5 seconds down, got right onto the tail and really started challenging it there at the latest possible moment with a drive-through penalty to be served. The Lamborghini number 19 out of the lead of the race into the pit lane. Huge frustration, leaving the battle to the 999 and the 27 Ferrari. Instead of being Lamborghini, Mercedes, Ferrari, it was Mercedes, Ferrari. And here was the 18, dear me, there's the, that is why we saw the BMW limping in with bodywork damage, carcass come off its tyre. But as much as the Australian racer Nick Foster could push, he then found the sister 888, Group M Mercedes between himself and the race leader. Maxi Book laps down after the Alexander Matchell puncture and running as fast as the race leader and just providing that comfortable cushion that allowed Marcus Pommer to have that flamboyant finish. Nick Foster had to settle for second place. The number 3 Audi, Frankie Chen, coming home third, and GT4 victory did, after the drive-through penalty for the Mercedes, for the BMW, go to the Mercedes of Reinhold Renger. Patrick Niederhauser, though, very happy indeed. Marcus Pommer also very happy, but still cooking inside his helmet.
It was an incredible day of racing yesterday, as you can see, and we're all set for race 4. Now, I've just been told that it's 60 degrees on track out here. It is hot, but that's not going to stop these guys. Andrew Kim, I mean, it was a great race for you yesterday. You like this track?
Yeah, I love this track, and as you can see, like, all of the fans are here, so always love driving with the fans, so I love the track.
Always a good thing. Now, you've got a good position to start from. What is the plan?
Good position. Yeah, of course, we are looking forward to win both podium overall and the Pro-Am. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
All the best today. Thank you very much. Now, Bruce, you heard it from the man.
Yeah, we look remarkably cool, Renai, but I'm sure it's very hot down there. 60 degrees track temperature. So Andrew Kim, his teammate Adderley Fong, is starting today, and in practice on Friday and then again on Saturday morning, Adderley was very quick indeed. And just to reiterate that today we have the drivers who are nominated as the number 2 drivers starting. And I tell you what, you'd never think of Maxi Book as the number 2 driver. He's starting from pole position in the 888 Mercedes, the one that was hampered yesterday. Track temperature now listed as 56.7, so it's bobbing up and down, but certainly 60 degrees is the highest we've seen all meeting so far. That could have a factor to play. The team bosses will be telling the drivers to make sure they keep their tyres as fresh as they possibly can right up to the pit stops. But certainly drivers at the front end, I think it's going to be very hot pace at the front with the Group M Racing Mercedes. Maxi Boot being joined by Tim Slade, one of the stars of the meeting so far. He shares the number 28 Ferrari with Maurice Chen. And in terms of out-and-out pace, Tim Slade is right on it. So with Book and Slade trying to escape, you can be sure that Adderley Fong will try and stick to their tail. And Josh Burden, another Australian racer, he's starting on the second row. I think we could have a really fast quartet at the front of the field. And with Nick Foster in 5th place as well, it's looking as though it's going to be a very, very hot pace early on. And what we will find out today is who is not just got the fastest driver, but the best balanced pairing. But one of the cars that starred yesterday was the number 18 Nissan. Started 16th, came up to 6th place at the end. It's the number 18 Nissan, and down on the grid we have Tsugi Matsuda starting the car, but Renai has got Yuki Taniguchi.
Hi Yuki, now we saw an incredible drive from you guys yesterday, 16 to number 6. I mean, you must like how that went.
Yeah, it was like Friday was first time for me to drive here, and I had a lot of improvement, but qualify I didn't do good, so I was like back in 16th. And there was a big incident right in front of me at turn 1, and I was way behind. And there was some more incident, and I was way more behind. But when I switched to the other driver, all of a sudden I was not bad position. And Tsugio did a really great job, and we could finish in overall 6th and Pro 2nd. So I was very satisfied and looking forward for this race too. And we do maybe better.
The plans to do better? I mean, how are you going to change things up to get that result?
I think I'm getting more used to the track, and we have more knowledge about the car. This car is new, so we will do better and better.
Better and better. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good to hear from Taniguchi down there. Tsugu Matsuda is strapped into the car, and it's great to see more and more Japanese teams coming away from Japan and competing in the Blancpain GT Series Asia. But let's take a look at the track at Buriram. 4.554 kilometres, 12 turns. Wait a second, we'll see the red first sector being revealed. The start line bottom left of the screen. Very tricky first corner, then that wonderful run. Sector 2 starts with the turn 3 hairpin, lots of overtaking, and then it comes and starts twisting around the lakes, and you get to the most technical sector, the 3rd sector, that completes the lap. So you need a car that can be quick in the straight line and handy round the corners. An engineer's nightmare. But certainly looking at those KCMG Nissans, we just heard from one of the drivers back down there, 18 and 23, they're starting in 8th and 10th positions, but they have looked very well balanced, so look out for them making their way to the front. What a great sight, though, looking down on the grid, and you can hear you can almost feel the applause down on the grid. Alex Young putting his earpieces in. Hasn't had a good run yet with Marchi Lee in the Phoenix Racing Asia Audi, but plenty of passion. The grandstands are absolutely chock full, and such passion for the racing here on our second visit to the Chang International Circuit. And I think people who haven't seen this circuit from around the world, if it's their first sighter, I think it's one you'll be hearing an awful lot of. Huge amount of motorbike racing here as well, with MotoGP coming, and just built somewhere you wouldn't expect to find a circuit. A massive football stadium at the entrance as well. Buriram United, which is going apparently great guns in the Asian leagues. And here's the other KCMG car. They've brought 3, but they have the AM class Audi as well, just to keep them on their toes, running different sorts of cars, the 2 Nissans and the Audi. But just to reiterate, at the front of the grid, we've got a Mercedes on pole, a Ferrari alongside, and then the second row is a pair of Audis, and another Ferrari and another Mercedes. Lots of mixes of cars. And look out to row 5, at number 19, FFF Racing Lamborghini. Dennis Lind will take it over second, but Marcin Kodric will drive away at the start of the race. If he can get a decent start and manage to get up towards the likes of the first 2 or 3 rows, they could be in with a really, really good result, as long as they don't go under their minimum pit stop time. That cost them a drive-through penalty yesterday and left them to recover back to only 5th place, but they had worked their way to the front, so a story within the overall story, which is exactly how we like it in GT racing. Of course, we've got the 19 GT3 runners at the front end, and we have 10 GT4 runners completing the grid. We should have had 11, but unfortunately the Craft Racing McLaren ended up, the Clearwater Racing McLaren, technical problems yesterday morning and hasn't been able to play. But a battle within a battle, and if GT4 carries on growing at the rate it is now, we could well have separate GT3 and GT4 races in 12 months' time. That is certainly something that is being looked at. And if you want to know where this series go, we kicked off at Sepang a month ago. Here we are in Thailand. Then we have 2 Japanese rounds at Suzuka and then Fuji Speedway before we head to the Shanghai International Circuit and end up at Ningbo, also in China, to complete the 6 races. So what you need, of course, is consistency as well as speed. But talking things Japanese, Team BMW Studi have brought across 2 M4 GT4s. We've got Takayuki Kinoshita starting the 81 car, but we have Sunako Jukuku down with Renai on the grid.
Okay, so Sunuka, we've got lots of Japanese drivers here. And that's always exciting to see. What brings you guys to Blancpain GT Series Asia?
Yes, thank you. Yesterday's race is my drive a little bit mistake, touching number 6666. Broken race. I'm sorry. And today's race is today's race is 22 second pit stop hand. We got from 666 car number. I try clever driving. Good race.
All the best today. I know you guys have a lot to do up there. Back to you, Bruce.
Thank you very much, Renai. Very good to hear from the 81 crew. Really went well. Sunako Jukuchu was one of the stars at the back, but unfortunately with a puncture, that really wrecked their chances. But good to see the BMW M4 GT4s joining the Porsche Caymans that make up a lot of that class. But of course, we had the Class 1 yesterday by a Mercedes AMG, making it a double for the Group M racing team, because obviously the overall race was won by one of their 2 GT3 cars, the 999, which was Marcus Pommer bringing it home, Patrick Niederhauser leading out, but there's no given that they'll manage to do the same again. So the crowd being revved up by the circuit PA, they really love to cry and shout and have fun. But let's take a look. Here's the calendar, just ran through it. Sepang, we had exciting racing, totally different circuit here at the Chang International Circuit in Thailand, and Suzuka, one of the great racing circuits in the world, as June fuses into July, and Fuji Speedway, always a delight to compete on the side slopes of that most famous of volcanoes. Then the Shanghai International Circuit, the big wide open places of that massive Grand Prix circuit, and then one that a lot of people don't know as yet, the Ningbo International Speed Park. So China gets 2 races, Japan gets 2 races, and Thailand is very, very proud of its own race, its own round of the Blancpain GT Series Asia. We had great fun here last year. The grids are even bigger this year. The crowds are even bigger. And I also feel the temperature is even higher. As we said, it peaked at 60 degrees track temperature. When I was down there about half an hour ago, you could feel that heat coming up through your shoes. Sandy Stuvik, one of the local heroes, hasn't had the form. The Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche's just not quite on the pace. But it will be, of course, Shay Davis starting the race. We have the drivers flipped over from yesterday, and Sandy Stuvik hopefully will be able to bring it home to some glory at the end. But they were just outside the points, just outside the top 10 yesterday. Frustrating, but as we heard from many of the drivers, little incidents can turn a race completely on its head. But if you have a driver on pole position in a Mercedes AMG, that's one thing. But when it's Maxi Book, the man who's just made Mercedes AMG races his own, that is something else. So if anybody can keep up with him, and Tim Slade is starting alongside in the yellow Ferrari, that's going to be a really interesting battle. But this is the car that should have won yesterday, but for that drive-through penalty that wrecked its chances. Martin Kodrich starting today, then he'll hand over to Dennis Lind. But unfortunately for them, they're starting back in 9th position, row 5. So they've got that danger of not getting caught up in the trouble at either first corner or turn 3 on the opening laps. 2 real pinch points. But equally, if you're down in 9th, there are 2 points at which you can make up a place 2, 3 or 4, which is what you need to do. We have a pit stop somewhere between 25 minutes and 35 minutes into this 1-hour race, and the order could tip on something as small
as a car stopping for a second too short a time and being forced to come back in and make a pit stop. Elapsed pit lane time for a GT3 pit stop is 90 seconds, and it's 125 seconds for the cars in GT4. So it's up to the crews to make sure that they've measured exactly how long it takes to drive down the pit lane with the speed limiter on at 60 kilometers an hour, the in, the out, and then they have to have the balance as their pit stop time. So a little bit of maths is required, but let's say what's really required right now is focus but calm, and drivers try to stay as cool as possible in their cars. This is the start of the formation lap, so get your sighters in. It's Maxi Book in the 888 Mercedes. Behind him is Tim Slade, star of Australian supercars for many years, in that yellow Ferrari. Then comes Adderley Fong, going better and better in the 7 Absolute Racing Audi, and Josh Burden in a sister car, number 37. There it is, the second row. Josh Burden did take a pole at Sepang. Then comes Hub Auto Corsa, the second of their Ferraris. Nick Foster, one of the stars in the second part of the race. Look out for him, he's starting today. ARN Racing, the third of the Ferraris. Rotten luck, they spun out yesterday, came back into the race. But watch out for that number 19 Lamborghini. Martin Kodrick kicked it off, and the KCMG Nissans, they're in that mix as well. OD Racing, huge number of fans here. Mitch Gilbert's going to have to try and really deliver, but he's starting down in 11th. And Marchi Lee and Alex Young, don't forget Marchi Lee rejoined the championship this weekend. He was a Silver Cup champion last year, but he and Alex Young yet to fly, I'm afraid, in their Phoenix Racing Asia Audi. Down towards the tail end of the 19 cars in GT3. And as you can see, for Craft Bamboo Racing, one of their Porsches back there, the 991 entry in 17th, that's not their natural habitat. And Hiroshi Hamaguchi and Marco Mappelli in the second of the Lamborghinis, number 63. 19th is not their natural position either. Now, those two fantastic cars, 21st and 22nd on the grid, the BMW Team Studi M4s, they are the ones that's really going to try and keep Reinhold Renger in the 666 Mercedes. That's the one that won GT4 yesterday. They're the cars that are going to keep him honest, and they've certainly got the pace to do so. Reinhold is doing the race on his own. That means he has to actually not just sit in his car at the pit stop to hand back over to himself. He has to get out of the car and be out of the car for 7 seconds behind the line in the pit lane before being allowed to get back in. So right down the back of the grid, a car that's got plenty of pace, the second of the GT4 Mercedes, Ringo Chong, sharing with Gilles Vandelay, who will kick off today. Weather conditions, blue sky, but with potentially, are they fair weather clouds or not? But there are clouds around. That's why the track temperature bobs up and down according to whether there's a little patch of shade, but it's hot and it's going to take its toll on the Pirelli tyres. Will have to be very, very durable indeed. And then it's up to the drivers not to push too hard too soon. But what they have to do right now in the formation lap, the 29 runners, is form into their 15 rows. That by the time they get to turn 10 of 12, they're just there now. The front group of cars now going into the 2x2 formation. They're not going onto the arc, they're about to go into an hour of racing. The back car of the grid should be the charcoal and yellow Mercedes, just waiting for it to come into shot. There it is, car number 72, Team I Race to win. But up front, it's the Mercedes on the inside, Maxi Book, so many GT3 wins to his name. And alongside Tim Slade, a recent convert across from supercar V8 supercars to GTs, taken to them with real aplomb. Behind two of the 3 Absolute Racing Audis. Look at the lights on the starting gantry. They will stay red until hopefully the entire field has got through that tight final corner. Then who's it going to be leading the chase to the front? Maxi Book makes a good start behind him. Adderley Fong nips out. Tim Slade not so well away in the Ferrari. The second Ferrari, Nick Foster, now looks up the inside. He gains a position, and the driver on the outside of the second row, Josh Burden, goes from 4th down to 5th. Behind pretty much everybody stays on, or at least near the track, but Maxi Book has done what he needs to. Tim Slade now fighting back in the yellow Ferrari. Adderley Fong just realising he's gone to the outside line, but now there's a yellow Ferrari there. He's got his nose in front, but Maxi Book has done everything he needs to do. Nick Foster now up into 3rd place. Great start for the second of the Ferraris. Josh Burden trying to hang on in 5th as they come back over the undulating ups and downs from turn 3 to turn 4. Mercedes still in front, having to go to the outside line, but seemingly with plenty of pace. Tim Slade goes wide on the way in, tries to go tight on the way out, but Maxi Book has seen moves like that before. But it's a bit of a fight back. Nick Foster almost getting touched by Adderley Fong, but he's been pushed wide at turn 5. He's out on the dirty, dusty stuff, and he loses the position. It's going to take a moment or two to get the dust back off those tyres. So very, very feisty indeed. But what's happened is Foster
and Fong are fighting so hard. It's the first two have made their break. Well, that's a dream for those two. So leading the race, Maxi Book. In behind, we have Tim Slade trying his absolute utmost to stay in touch. Certainly in qualifying, he was very, very quick indeed. He had pole, he added 2 more within 1/10 of a second of that best time, and then Maxi Book showed him how to do it, but only by the smallest of margins. We're talking 1/10 of a second at the end. So Tim Slade very much in touch, but pole man Maxi Book has got the job done around the opening lap. He's resisted all the attacks that have been thrown his way. Nick Foster has managed to get back into 3rd place, but has got a deficit of about nearly 2 seconds over the yellow Ferrari driven by Tim Slade. Down in GT4, waiting for the first of those to cross the line. And it's not Reinhold Renger, it's Kinoshita, so one of the 2 BMWs in the M4s in the GT4 class has taken the lead in that category and now started to make the presence felt. The KCMG Nissan's 18 ahead of 23, Matsuda ahead of Florian Strauss, the German racer, starting to pick up the positions. I said they looked good before the start of the race, looked very well balanced, good balanced driver lineups as well. So as this 1 hour of racing unfolds, we can see them continue move towards the front. And unfortunately, Adderley Fong seems to be losing a little bit of ground, whereas Josh Burden has benefited. He's now moved up into 4th place. Did it just at the start of the lap. Adderley Fong, there he is with the yellow flashes on his absolute racing. Audi has now got Florian Strauss all over his tail. And Matsuda has already moved through, Tsuge Matsuda. So position gain up to 5th place for the better of the 2 Nissans. That's the one with the white bonnet. The blue bonnet is the 23 car. And that's Florian Strauss trying his utmost, being chased by the ARN Racing Ferrari. And then behind that, yesterday's race-winning Mercedes. Marcus Pommer has lost ground at the start. He started in 6th on the grid. He's down to 9th. So he's had exactly what he didn't want at the start of the race. And it looks as though the red and silver Lamborghini is the last of the GT3 runners. And that's Ben Porter sharing with Andrew McPherson. Maxi Book had a better second lap. He was 0.8 of a second clear at the end of lap 1. He's now 1.5 seconds clear. And we've had a change in a GT4 as well, because the Mercedes of Reinhold Renger has made its way through and has just taken the lead in the class from Kinoshita in the Team Studi 81. The second Team Studi car has actually got tucked in behind the 72 Mercedes that started stone last, 10th and last in GT4. Ooh, one of the second of the BMWs getting pushed very wide indeed out at turn 1. If you do that on a consistent basis, you will start to get driver warning flags, and then you will get drive-through penalties, and they've not been afraid to issue them. So Group M Mercedes number 999 leads the race. Group M Mercedes number 666 leads GT4, having just pushed Takayuki Kinoshita back into 2nd place, but Kinoshita is not saying die. He's tucked in behind, using the slipstream of that AMG Mercedes. They come up to turn 4 and can't make it stick. In fact, he got a little bit too close and had to sort of wash out a little bit, but I have a feeling this little battle is going to run the whole way through. And when Sunako Chikuku takes over in the second part of the race, of course, Reinhold Renger would have already done the first half and will be feeling pretty hot indeed. So a fresh driver could make all the difference. End of lap 3, the gap has gone out by another 10th of a second, 1.6 seconds between Maxi Book and Tim Slade. Nick Foster is now clear in 3rd place, and Josh Burden in 4th. So 2nd, 3rd and 4th, all Australian drivers. Bit of a theme going there. But look out for Matsuda. He's chasing the 37 Audi in the 18 Nissan. Seems to have plenty of grunt as he works his way down to turn 3, but for that big broad hairpin, he's on the outside line. He's going to have to tuck down and see how good his exit speed is, but they both go relatively wide on the exit. But you can be sure that Josh Burden in the 37 Audi knows full well it's a very, very serious challenge. Don't forget, number 18 car is the one that started 16th yesterday, had its problems in the race, as we heard from just before the start of the race, and is making things very easy indeed. Worked his way up to 6th today. It's just moved up to 4th place, and you know what, I don't think it's going to stop there. So here, race leader Maxi Book, a bit of clear space, slightly larger gap of clear space from 2nd back to 3rd. 3.9 seconds is the gap 1st to 3rd at the moment, and that little gap to 37, but except of course we know that graphic is now outdated because the number 18 Nissan has worked its way through. Number 7, which is Adderley Fong, trying to fight his way back. Don't forget he was challenging for about 3rd position through the first few corners, then lost out further around the opening lap, and is now making his way back onto the tail of the sister car of the 37 of Josh Burden, and in behind Florian Strauss, German racer, looking to see what he can do. Can he also push those Absolute Racing Audis a little further down the order? Good lap for Maxi Boop. The gap's gone out to 1.9 seconds now, and then 2.6 seconds between the second place Slade and the third place Fosters. But we were talking about the progress before the race, when it would come from the Lamborghinis. 63 certainly made progress, started down in 19th position, and Marco Bappelli is up to 11th, but the number 19 sister car started in 9th position, has fallen 1 position to 10 in the hands of Martin Kodrick. That is my fault. I suggested they might be likely race winners, so I apologise to the pair of them. But they, as I said, if you're down in the middle of the grid, you've got to take a few risks, and I guess they didn't work out for Kodrick at the start of the race. GT4, the advantage continues to grow for Reinhold Renger. His advantage 2.6 seconds now over Kinoshito's BMW. Third place in the class is now Gilles Vanelay. He's moved ahead of one of the 3 Thai Porsche Caymans. The JWD Unix Racing team has just lost that position. So Gilles Vanelay now up to 3rd in that number 72 Mercedes. Up to 3rd in class from 10th at the start. That's a pretty mighty run. Maxi Book in the 888 just keeps chipping away, just keeps stretching his advantage over Tim Slade. Tim, as we saw in practice and qualifying, very, very good on individual laps, but I think in full race trim, the Mercedes is looking very, very good indeed. But then it's not just any old Mercedes, it's a Group M racing Mercedes. It's got Maxi Book at the wheel, so you join up those advantages, and Tim Slade's doing a very good job in the faster of the 2 Hub Auto Ferraris to stay as close as he is, still around 2 seconds down on the race leader. And the second Hub Auto Ferrari, you can see in the background Nick Foster, those yellow lights blazing, and what you can see though is closing all the time. Hideshi Matsuda in that number 18 Nissan. Tsuge Matsuda getting closer and closer. Last time around they were 2 seconds apart. They're certainly not that far apart now. The gap is coming down, and unfortunately for the Team Studi, number 81 BMW, the gap is going out in their class battle, because here is the class leader, Reinhold Renger. Where it was 1 second, it's become 2 seconds. It looks like it's getting closer to 3 seconds now, just having a pit visitor, which isn't according to the plan. And unfortunately, it's the number 51 AMAC Motorsport Lamborghini. So Ben Porter, that isn't in the race script, so something untoward has caused that in. Whether it's a puncture, they've been running down at the tail of the class. Just had a move from number 82 gaining a position. That's Max Chen in the second BMW Studi. BMW just gaining a position ahead of the driver, I think, with the longest name in the race. Pitsanu, that's easy, but Sirimon Kolkasem, one of the Thai racers, there they are fighting side by side. The Thai cars are all standing out for their amazing race liveries, and you can see a fight back from 72. Sorry, not 72, it's Jean-Marc Merlan. You can see the 77 Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche Cayman getting right in the mix as well. Crowds in the grandstand enjoying the action. They'll have those pit stops starting in about 15 minutes time. Talked before the race about how the Craft Bamboo Racing entries aren't flying. The better place the two is down in 14th place, Shea Davis and Darrell Young down in 17th. They just do not have the legs this weekend. Audi Racing, their Audi is also not flying in the way that Mitch Gilbert would have wanted. We saw him with huge support down in the grid, but running only in 12th place. And now Maxi Book already lapping the back markers. He's picked off the number 14 Morseng Racing Team Porsche Cayman. He's now picking off the number 80 Racing Spirit Thailand entry. So for Tim Slade in second place in the yellow Ferrari, this is the opportunity to perhaps gain an advantage, but quite often when you're lapping the first car to lap a back marker, the back marker gets out of the way and possibly pulls back across too soon. But in fact, you can see after that first little shake through the tail end Porsche Caymans, the Ferrari is much closer. It was 1.9 seconds last time around, 1.5 seconds 2 laps ago, 1.5 seconds last time around, and now it's down to, I would suggest, under a second as they come down to the 12th and final corner. 11 minutes in this 1 hour race taken care of, but up front Maxi Book can see he's got that quartet the 3 Porsche Caymans and the second of the BMW M4s up ahead. He's got to negotiate them. And already dropping a long way back is the number 14 Morseng Racing entry, because the second driver, Tosafol Famyai, who started today, has been super polite in letting others go past, but it has cost him track position. Tim Slade diving up the inside into turn 3 of the Cayman with that bright green metallic tail. Therefore it's one of the 3 Thai entries, all favouring metallic coverings on their car. They do look absolutely wonderful. So what do you do when you're the other driver? You sit in the pit garage and you wait. This is the Craft Bamboo camp. They just have to wait their turn. Anytime between 25 minutes into the race and 35 minutes. And for Aidan Reid and Sandy Stuvik, it's just a time to sit and wait. But this has been fantastic through the traffic. Tim Slade has been super positive, something he probably learned very well indeed in supercar V8 racing. He's now right on Maxi Buch's tail. It had looked after about 4 laps when the gap was out to about 2 seconds. The advantage could have swung permanently away from the Ferrari. But for Tim Slade, he's clearly very dogged indeed, and he's tucking in behind. And down to 1.03 seconds. I think it's less than that. I'd say it's down to about 0.6 of a second as we see them come down to turn 12 again. Yes, way closer than they were last time around. What will it be on the start-finish line? Just crossing it now, waiting for the 0.464 of a second. So now the slipstream is all yours, Mr. Slade, in that Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari. Good tidy run through the first corner though, quite a tricky corner, and Maxi Buch I think managed to gain back about another 1/10 of a second, but now in the slipstream Tim Slade is able to close in. Not enough to make a passing manoeuvre, but just enough to make Maxi brake as late as he dares. Did that very well indeed. Tim Slade though slower in, looks like he's going to have the faster exit, or maybe not because he's running a little bit wide. At this point of course they're thinking about their tyres. Push too hard and it could be a little bit messy later in the stint. This battle for first looks like it's got the potential to rage all the way, just when it looked as though Maxi Buch had just enough speed to start working his way clear. Tim Slade has said nothing of the sort. Several cars have got final warnings for exceeding track limits. The number 3 Audi, Frankie Chen Kong Fu, and Adelie Fong in the number 7. So the 7 Audi is down in 7th place, the 3 not so well placed down in 13th. But race officials have said very clearly from the outset of this meeting, the white lines on the outside of the circuit, you can cross them, you can put 2 wheels across them, but put all 4 wheels outside the white line and we will ping you. You get a warning, you get a final flag, final warning, and they will lead to drive-through penalties. We had them yesterday, and for the sake of saving maybe not as much as even a 1/10 of a second, you can absolutely wreck your race with the drive through the pit lane. Tim Slade though is trying to do it on the track. Maxi Buch, as he crosses the start-finish line, is 0.4 of a second. It's now 0.3 of a second. You can't get any closer than that with touching. So down in the world of Group M racing, looks very serious indeed. And for Alexander Matchell, who'll take over from the race leader Maxi Buch, he is an AM class driver. This guy's running in the Pro-Am class. There's nothing AM about Maxi Buch, but naturally he's the driver who's going to be quicker of that pairing. Tim Slade tries the outside line, but Maxi Buch wise to it, but Tim Slade tighter on the exit there, wider on the way and tighter on the exit, all but pushing that Mercedes up over the rises and dips on that run from turn 3 to turn 4. Again, he'll be shown the outside line. There's a Group M Mercedes ahead of them, but that's the one. Reinhold Renger running in the lead of GT4, didn't get in the way at all, but what it did do was remove the opportunity for Tim Slade to look to the outside at turn 4, but it stays even Stevens between the race leading duo. Maxi Buch continues in front for the Group M Mercedes racing team, but being pushed very hard indeed by Tim Slade in that 27 Ferrari, the sister car, sorry, 28 Ferrari, the sister car, 27 in the background. Nick Foster still holding down 3rd place, but Sugio Matsuda in the number 18 Nissan is keeping him very honest indeed. Don't forget the 18 car has risen in this race from 8th up to 4th. A good start, but also some very positive overtaking from Matsuda in the opening couple of laps. So looking from the outside, a marginal gain on this lap. It was 0.3 of a second between Buch and Slade last time around. It looks like it's about 0.6 this time, 0.615 of a second. But Maxi Buch is being made to work his tyres very hard indeed. But then again, He's very good at keeping a car balanced, so that will enable him to carry on pushing in a way that other drivers perhaps couldn't do to the same extent. In the background, here comes that battle for third place. Nick Foster in the 27 Ferrari and Sugio Matsuda in the mighty KCNG GT-R NISMO Nissan. Down to turn 3. Close, but not yet quite close enough. The sister car, number 23, is back behind Josh Burden in 6th place. You can see in the back of the shot. Second Nissan just going past Reinhold Renger, and then a little bit of a gap, and then we have Adley Fong and the third Ferrari, the Japanese entered one with with Daisuke Ito. He'll hand over to Hiroaki Nagai. So, where is the performance advantage of the KCNG Nissan? Nick Foster is just trying to work that out entirely to make sure he blocks it to hold on to third place in the Ferrari. And they've been a really consistent pairing so far this year. Nick Foster and Liu Yihong Li, Chinese racer, have finished 4th and 5th at Sepang, 2nd yesterday. They're running 3rd today. This is the sort of consistency that leads to titles. Or at least that's what they're hoping. They've obviously got to hold it on through 8 more races across the 4 remaining rounds. But right now, Nick Foster's doing a very good job indeed. But Sugio Matsuda, keep getting the wrong Matsuda, is just having a look here, a look there. Hasn't yet made a really serious bid. Do I sense that behind them, Josh Burden is starting to close in a little bit? No, I think he's lapping at the same pace. So it looks so Sugio Matsuda and Nick Foster left to fight their own battle for now for 3rd place. And if you get a chance to take a look at the 2 KCMG's Nissans, the one with the white bonnet is the one in 4th place, the one with the blue bonnet, and where white and blue is blue, they're all swapped over between the 2 cars. But just remember the white bonnet is on Sugio Matsuda's. And number 3, haven't seen that for a while, that is Frankie Chen Kung Fu. This is a battling just outside the top 10. Frankie Chen's in 13th place. Craft Bamboo is in 14th, Shea Davis. As you can see, a lot of cars running line astern, and their battles do get slightly broken up when they come across the GT4 runners. The GT4 leader is the 666 Mercedes. They're being passed by number 5, Alex Young. Keep out of the way. So the advantage in GT4 for Reinhold Renger. 8 seconds last time around. Kinoshita, Takayuki Kinoshita in the 81. Oh dear, that's 991. Darrell Young driven. Craft Bamboo. Porsche going a little wide, losing a little bit more ground, so that is unfortunate indeed. But having had the 81 BMW pushing very hard on the tail and getting in front of the 666 racing car. Now, one of the things we had yesterday was after a spin, the 666 Mercedes, the one we're looking at now, had a bit of bodywork damage. If you look at the rear of the car, it's on the right-hand side of the rear, and it was hanging down. The car didn't get flagged, which you can do if bits are likely to fall off your car. They obviously decided it looked broken but not liable to fall off. We think it might actually be hanging down again today, so we'll keep a look out for that. What we're seeing is we look at the 72 Mercedes. That is now 2nd in GT4. They've got a GT3 runner between them. It's the KCMG number 45 Audi. So it just shows that Shirisaka's had a bit of a poor lap, and he's lost position to Renger. There's Renger losing position for Florian Strauss. So we'll keep an eye out for the 666. Is it carrying damage again? If so, it wasn't a very good repair, or it might be an identical moment. But we haven't had a spin this time around for the GT4 class leader, and this isn't the right timing for the 81 BMW car for Kinoshita. We fancied might really take the challenge. He did briefly lead the GT4 class, but I would presume that must be a drive-through or a stop-and-go penalty. No, it's a stop-and-push-back penalty. Drive-through penalty for car number 7 has now been issued. And unfortunately for Adley Fong, who had high hopes at the start of this race, started from 3rd position, that's ruined all chance. Car 23, a drive-through penalty has been issued also for exceeding track limits. That's the 2nd of the Nissans. That's Florian Strauss in 6th place. Have to keep an eye on the non-timing screen because a number of drivers getting final warnings. Car number 37, that's Josh Burden in 5th place. He's got the final. Well, let's have a look underneath. It's quite hard with a strong shadow to see, but yesterday, well, from the front angle you cannot see it. Now the 45 Audi trying to make up after its earlier little issue that dropped it behind. Yeah, bodywork hanging down again, or is it just a bit of tape today? We'll keep a watch out, but yesterday there was a clear reason. The car went for a spin. From the front end, you look under the 666 Mercedes, you can't see anything hanging low, whereas I think we could yesterday, but if there is something hanging down, it'll be making Reinhold Ranger's life all the more difficult. So Maxi Book making his way through. One of the GT4 runners being very, very kind indeed, almost going off the track to make sure he didn't block Tim Slade. But our race leader, it's settled down, it's gone back out to about 1.9 seconds. We had Tim Slade right on the tail of Maxi Book not so long ago. And here we are 3 minutes before the pit window opens, and Tim Slade very comfortably in second place. And in fact, he's nearly 7.5 seconds clear of his teammate Nick Foster. But unfortunately just not able to get right up at the front. 80 and 17, they're right down at the tail of GT4. They've got one other runner behind them, which is car number 14, the Morsang Racing Cayman. But this battle at the front, clear track. Whenever it's clear track, this is the opportunity for Maxi Book trying to put down his marker and pull further clear. But it does seem at the moment they're trading in tenths of a second, and Tim Slade is able to stay there or thereabouts. But he must remember about 5 or 6 laps ago he was right, almost pushing the 888 Mercedes around at the front of the race. Couldn't find a way past. Down in the world of OD racing, trying to communicate with the drivers, obviously with the pit window soon to open. Well, let's have a quick check. Just check if OD racing have got any penalties coming their way. Nothing on the screen at the moment, because for a lot of the crews they're having to put the message through to their drivers. Don't forget, number 7 has got a drive-through penalty, and number 23 as well, both of them exceeding track limits. 7 is running in 17th place. Adley Fong has just made that pit visit, and 23 will be coming in as well. In fact, that too has just dropped down the order for Florian Strauss. Oh, debris on the circuit, and Maxi Book's just hit some of it, bouncing over the nose of the car. Let's hope nothing is untoward, but it's never good when a racing car hits debris. Oh dear, very slow moving Lamborghini, the AMAC car, limping into pit entry. So they've already had a pit stop and they're coming in all over again, so maybe whatever was a problem has become a bigger problem. Tim Slade was snaking his way through the GT4 Caymans, but having done so, the 888 pulls away yet again, but Tim Slade is dogged. He's hanging on in there. Looks like it's going to be a gain about, oh dear, this could be where the debris has come from. It looks like a left rear puncture for the AMAC Lamborghini. So for Ben Porter, he was hoping to make a pit stop about this time, in about 2 minutes time to start pit window and do driver change to Andrew McPherson. But for Ben Porter, clearly, well, as you can see, the hub's come off, but not a great deal of tyre is left, and as so often happens, the inner wheel arch bodywork gets damaged when a tyre flails around inside there. That is what put the debris on the circuit. They need a lump hammer. No, they don't. Good, plenty of strength there from the AMAC Motorsport crew. And are there any sharp shards that need to be taped back up before the car can go out onto the circuit again? So it's not been a dream run. Could have been a bit of debris they hit themselves, or you never know what causes a puncture, but certainly with the debris that was lying out on the circuit, there could be other punctures resulting from that. Team manager car number 27 to report to race control immediately. That is Nick Foster's car. He's been passed by the Nissan for 3rd place. That was coming shortly, and it's happened while we look at that pit stop for the Lamborghini. Now we're looking at Porsche not wanting to turn into a corner at all, and that's the better place to do. That was Shea Davis in 12th place. Debris still lying out on the circuit on the exit of turn 4. And we're just hearing that the damage was for the 51, possibly from a brake failure, but I don't really understand why that triggered the puncture. As we can see, the tyre was lying peeled to the side of the rim behind the white line in the pit lane for the crew, but certainly damage inside the wheel arch from so much flailing rubber. So our race leader, still as the pit window is now open, Maxi Book from Tim Slade. It went out to 1.9 seconds again, then has come down to 1.4. I would reckon these two, they're the quicker driver in both their pairings. They will stay out for about another 8 minutes or so and come in just before the pit entry closes for pit stops. They will run for as long as they possibly can. The number 3 Audi comes in. Frankie Cheng will hand that over to Martin Rump. Martin was very strong in that yesterday, but that is just down outside the top 10, so worth a gamble. One of the two, it's the 991 Porsche comes in. That was Daryl O'Young. He was right at the tail end of the GT3 class. And out goes O'Young, and in steps Aidan Reid. Now, these cars have to have, as I say, 90 seconds from pit in to pit out during the course of their pit stop, and the GT4 cars rather longer, 2 minutes and 5 seconds, 125 seconds in all. Did you see, as the rather used-looking, fresh, inverted commas, set of tyres went on the rear of that Porsche, they had gravel all over them, so not all these tyres might be fresh for the moment, but they're not all brand new sets that go on. 666 leader from the GT4 class, Reinhold Renger, comes in. Don't forget, he has to get out of the car and get back in. You can see the German racer just clambering out. He goes behind the white line, just out of our view. He has to stay there for 7 seconds before he can return to the car and get strapped back in all over again. So, race leader Maxi Buch, 1.493 seconds clear. Tim Slade keeping him very honest indeed. The silver and blue Mercedes still ahead of the yellow and grey Ferrari. Team BMW Studio, this is the car that hasn't had the problem. This is car 82, and it's running third at the time of its pit stop. Max Chen changing over to Ken Urata. Great to have these Team Studio entries here. Certainly the team very much enjoying coming out to play away from various Japanese racing series and just try something new and circuits new. Certainly everybody who comes to the Chang International Circuit likes it very much indeed. So the pit lane really quite busy, but right at the front end of the race, Maxi Buch, Tim Slade, Tsugie Matsuda, Nick Foster, their positions just changed a short while ago, still the top 4 runners. Josh Bird and Marco Mappelli's done well. That 63 Lamborghini, may I point out, started down on row 10 in 19th position. So 19th to 6th. I think Marco Mappelli's earned himself a cool glass of water when he gets out of the car. Majority of the front runners have not pitted. 19 Lamborghini, though, has pitted. And don't forget, this is a car that started in 9th position. I fancied it to work its way forward. Dennis Lind will now take over, and he's the driver who moved to the front of the race yesterday. Today it's a rather different story, but he could well pick himself up to a relatively decent position. So the longer hold for the GT4 racers, 125 seconds is how long they have to be at a standstill. And one of the Porsche crews, the local crews, that's Charvanin Bundit Kansada will take that over. That's the JWD Unix racing team Cayman. And as I said, the Thai racing trio of teams all really like these metallic wraps they put on their car. And they certainly do look very good indeed. Nearly halfway through the pit window. You're not allowed more than 2 mechanics working on the car during the course of a pit stop. Helps to keep costs down. Helps to keep things human, really. So Reinhold Renger back into the race. He took victory yesterday, and he certainly looked pretty warm afterwards. But had it not been for a puncture for the 81 BMW M4, it could have been very different indeed. 991 Porsche continues around the circuit, but for Reinhold Renger, he's got possibly the tricky part of the race out of the way, which is the run through the first few corners, get the pit stop done with nothing untoward happening, and continue on your way. Maxi Buch has had a very good lap indeed, because it went from 1.9 seconds clear to 3.3 seconds clear. Tim Slade, as you can see in the yellow Ferrari, lost out. I don't think that was down to sheer pace. There must have been some traffic involved. You could lose a tenth, 2 tenths, even half a second. But now Maxi Buch in the 888 Mercedes, slightly compromised. Number 17 Porsche came in the Taiwan Top Speed Racing Team entry. Tries to keep out of the way, but eventually they have to turn into corners. Here's the OD Racing Audi. Mitch Gilbert will get out. Indian racer Aditya Patel will take over. And this is a car that was always on the pace last year. This year it hasn't yet really hit its straps for whatever reason, but huge amount of support come here this weekend for them. A lot of corporate hospitality as well, and certainly that crew works it very, very hard indeed. Brings a whole new load of race fans as well. One of the Porsche Caymans is having a pit stop that involves it being pushed back into its garage, which I don't think is really exactly what they were wanting to do. Can't quite see which one it was. Two Lamborghinis running right together, the FFF Racing entries. It was the number 11, so that's the TTR Team Sard entry. That was Brian Lee who started. He should have been handing over to Tony Fong, but something has gone wrong, and that appears to be parked up. Yesterday we got all the cars to the finish of the race. A little bit of frontal damage, but maybe there was some suspension damage as well. So Tim Slade is in the pits, making his pit stop in the yellow Ferrari from second place. Maxi Book, as I predicted, will stay out as long as he possibly can. That is the sister car, that's yesterday's winning car. Marcus Pommer bringing in the 999 Mercedes to be taken over by Patrick Niederhauser. Patrick had to work really hard in the first stage of the race, slightly easier for Marcus, but he was being kept on his toes in the closing stage of the race by Nick Foster, but did it just perfectly. Just put the car where it needed to be, when it needed to be there, and stroked it home. But there was some severe pressure for a while. It did ease towards the end of the race. 63 and 19 having a really good little battle out there on the circuit. 19's made its pit stop though. It's a lap further down. We're waiting for 63 Marco Mappelli to come in. But just highlight before I forget, Mappelli started down in 19th, but he's got it up to 5th. Yes, a few of the front runners made pit stops, but it's still been a fantastic drive. This is the ARN Racing Ferrari. It was one of the winners here last year. Yes, they had a spin right at the start, which wrecked its race. Today it started from row 4, 7th position overall. Should be able to work its way towards a better result, but I think it got rather out-muscled at the start of this race. Alex Jung, Marchi Lee. Should be Marchi Lee who's taking it over. Just waiting to swing out. Having to wait while one of the GT4 Caymans went past. You can lose a second or two waiting to swing out of your pit stop. And certainly yesterday Marcus Pommer felt he was blocked, ironically, by one of the sister cars, the GT4 Group M Mercedes, the one that went on to win the GT4 class. He reckons it cost him a couple of seconds swinging out around its tail. Aha, good. The AMAC Lamborghini number 51. Looks like the bodywork repairs have been completed. Driver change is being effected. And it should be Andrew McPherson taking that over. That is square last, Ben Porter. 7 and 97. 97 is the very good-looking sort of dove grey and blue Mercedes from Indigo Racing. And into the pits, Alexander Matchell has just taken over from Maxi Book, waiting to be signalled out. Goes out just behind the AMAC Lamborghini. Now, where will he slot in? The yellow Ferrari came in a lap ago. I would think the lead was large enough. Don't forget there was that lap just before their pit stops. Oh, it's an easy lead because as Mercedes leaves the pit, the yellow Ferrari is just turning into turn 12, but it's quite a long pit exit, but I still fancy that 888 Mercedes will be in front for Alexander Matchell. He will then be fighting against the second driver in the 28 Ferrari, which will be Maurice Chen. Try and pay, with no disrespect. Tim Slade is the star in that car, so it's up to Maurice to do the most solid job he can do. It looks like he's got a deficit at the moment of about 6 seconds. So around turn 3, no problem at all, having retaken the lead. There's the team, the car that Gilles Vanelay, the 72 GT4 Mercedes, will be handing over to Ringo Chong. Ringo's been having a really good meeting here, just hasn't been getting the results though. Disqualified from both the qualifying sessions, that car. Having to start from the back of the grid, but the way that Vanelay in the opening laps of the race just moved very quickly up into third place in cars. There's Gilles in the background, looking on at the car, holding a bottle of cold water. I think every driver getting out needs at least one of those. And off goes Ringo. 97 continues to battle with 7. That's Juwon Seo, Korean racer, snaking away in his Mercedes, and a little bit of body rubbing there. So number 7 now in the hands of Andrew Kim. So that's 2 Korean racers and 1 piece of track, and unfortunately a little bit of body rubbing with the Mercedes leaving its brake a little too late, I think. Now, let's have a little look down the inside. Look, snaking and braking. Oh, the tail wanted to break away for Ju Won-seo, but unfortunately for his fellow Korean, Andrew Kim was in the right place, but just at the wrong time. And taking the advantage, Aidan Reid behind them thought, well, if you're offering the place, I'll take it. So, race leader before the pit stops, the 888 Mercedes. After the pit stop, also the 888 Mercedes. Maxi Book has handed over to Alexander Matchell. Where is the yellow Ferrari? Looks like Maurice Chen is losing positions rather than gaining ground. So the great moments for the yellow Ferrari from Hubble and Corsa ended when Tim Slade got out of the car. But for Maurice Chen, matter of pride, he'll be doing his utmost to stay as much in touch as he can do. But look, there are almost no cars in sight. But there are no cars in sight behind our race leader. Then we get the AMAC Lamborghini. That's a long way down. Here is Maurice Chen, but he's listed as down in 4th position at the moment. And he's got traffic, and ahead of him he's got number 18 Nissan, and I think also the 63 Lamborghini, but hold on, that might just be listed as being ahead of them because of where it was in the pits. But Marco Mappelli did that long first stint in the 63 Lamborghini, 19th up to 5th. Just waiting for another long shot. No, the Lamborghini's in the front of that grouping, so the Lamborghini's in 2nd place. For Hamaguchi, Taniguchi is in 3rd place in the Nissan. Maurice Chen 4th in the yellow Ferrari, the 28, and just waiting for Josh Burden's position to be sorted out. Would have had his maiden pit stop. I'm just going to have a quick look at the timing screens to see if we've got any more drive-through penalties being announced. No, 23 had one, 7 has had one. And unsafe release under investigation. It's a Group M Mercedes, but for the race leader in the 888 crew, he doesn't have to worry, nor does the driver in this battle for GT4 honours, the 666 car of Reinhold Renger, because it's the sister car. Patrick Niederhauser taking over from Marcus Pommer, down in 11th place at the moment in the 999 entry. One of their 2 cars in GT3, but GT4, the battle is clearly very tough indeed. Ringo Chong getting very serious with Reinhold Renger. He was in front. Renger is now back in front, but Ringo will be far from finished. Watch this. If we can have this one going the whole way to the finish, that would be great. Ken Urata behind him, though, is about a half a minute down, so it's all about the AMG Mercedes. The 666 car and the 72 car. The silver and gold one in front of us, a charcoal and yellow version. They are the predominant cars in GT4. Let's take a look at the replay. Reinhold Renger is on the left of your screen. He's 2nd place in class, but Ringo Chong, well, he seeded the corner at turn 3 in incredibly, I would say, unnecessarily gentlemanly fashion. But the Singaporean kept out of the way. Maybe he didn't think a move was coming, but certainly Reinhold Renger, yes, he's tired. He's done the first half of the race, but perhaps he's a little more perceptive to exactly how the tyres are handling at the moment. So there is the 999 Mercedes, the car that won yesterday. Patrick Niederhauser at the wheel. He was yesterday's starter. He does the 2nd stint today, but there is the sword of Damocles hanging over them. The team manager of that car, Group M Racing, has to go up the stairs to race control. This one, though, doesn't have any problems at all, because for Alexander Matchell, he had his problems yesterday, but he's got a 13-second lead now over Hamaguchi. So Lamborghini did not win a round in this championship last year. The 19 car that just got out of your picture is not going to win it today, because Dennis Lin, though he's making up ground up to 5th place, is at some distance behind the sister car of Hamaguchi. So maybe it's up to Hamaguchi to get those 13 seconds back on the race leading Alexander Matchell in the remaining 20 or so, just under 20 minutes of this race. Archie Lee trying to gain a position. Number 5 out. Audi, yep, going up past Hiroaki Nagai. So the ARN Racing Ferrari going backwards and going in the opposite direction and hoping to continue his rise. Archie Lee, one of last year's pair of Silver Cup winners. He shared the title with Sean Thong. Didn't do the opening race in Malaysia, but has joined Alex Young in the Phoenix Racing Asia Audi, and they're the oldest Silver Cup pairing by far with an average age of roughly 41.5 years. Archie showing plenty of attack there. Pressing on when the front of the car was washing around a little bit, just waiting until the grip comes back. But our race leader, Alexander Matchell, just remember it was 13 seconds or so last time around. He's the best lap that car has done in the hands of Maxi Book in the early stages of the race, 1 minute 33.8. But one of the stars in the early parts of the race, up from 19th to 5th, was Marco Mappelli in the 63 Lamborghini, and he is down with Renai.
Okay, Marco, now you started from 10th in the row, a great stint from you to make it up all the way to the front there.
Yeah, well, let's say qualifying, I had only a few laps due to the red flag, and these few laps were cancelled by the marshal for track limits, so I had to start last. But like yesterday, our pace is to win the race, so the team did a great job. The car is mega, and I hope we can continue like this through all the season.
A lot of challenges, including track limits. Is that very difficult with all the traffic that's out there?
Yes, because the track is done for motorbikes, so obviously with the kart you always need more room. But the problem is they making sometimes strange rules, because Blancpain has one rule, SuperGT has one other rule. Every championship has its own rule, so sometimes when you push, you forgot where you are. But yeah, it's my fault. So at the end, the marshal always has the right.
Okay, all the best. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Well done, Renai, for catching up with Marco Mappelli, but his car, the 63 Lamborghini, there it is, big on the screens. It's got pressure coming from behind. There it is, being pushed very hard indeed by the 18 Nissan. We tipped that as a chance in this race. Yuki Taniguchi's taken that over from Sugio Matsuda, and he is, as he does that, that is hampering Hamaguchi's closing in on the race leader. It was 13 seconds, he went down to about 12.8 last time around, and unfortunately in this lap he's lost 2.1 seconds because he's got that company. The Audi just in the background is also from KCMG, but that's in the AM class. That is a lap down, so this is the battle for second place. The Lamborghini from the Nissan. In the background, the second of the Lamborghinis, Dennis Lind. He was 5th a blink ago, he's now up to 4th. He's moved, in fact they both put Anthony Liu back, because the 27 Ferrari is also making up ground all over again. So Leo Yi now at the wheel, and here comes that move for second place. And Hamaguchi goes out very wide, doesn't back off out of turn 3, but a better exit speed should have that Nissan in front. It looks so it is as it comes through the heat haze. I haven't checked the track temperature for a while, but it's certainly hot. But Hamaguchi has not backed out as he goes down to turn 4. Forces the Nissan wide, but luckily no clash between them. But then he dives up the inside as they get to turn 5. He's too deep into the corner. Unfortunately, one Lamborghini not going well. With its third pit visit is the troubled AMAC entry. And no sooner had Andrew McPherson taken over and the problems come back. But one of the drivers we've heard from this weekend, but not yet today, is down with Renai. The number 3 Audi is in the hands of Martin Rump in 8th, but she has got the driver who started, Frankie Cheng.
Okay, Frankie, now what does Martin have to do out there?
Well, Martin is always pushing, so that's no doubt about it. He's doing well, and although I think that the car is slightly a little bit nervous, but I think he's catching the car in front.
A lot of traffic also.
Yes, but it's not easy here.
All the best, thank you very much.
Frankie Cheng was quite right. Martin Rump is getting the move on. Last time around he was the second fastest driver out on the circuit. Third fastest driver. Fastest, in fact, was the 27 Ferrari, which is down in 5th place. I think we're going to have a lot of place changes, quite frankly, because we've got some quicker drivers making their way up the order. Martin Rump, just remember, in that number 3 Audi, the one we're looking at now, is down in 8th, but he will be making progress. And also, the 999 Mercedes has been given a drive-through penalty, is serving it now. That's Patrick Niederhauser, one of yesterday's winners. Another car that's picked up a drive-through penalty is 37, so Josh Burden started that car, but Anthony Liu, he was briefly in 4th place, now down to 6th. He's going to go tumbling in the 37 Audi. It does seem that the 97 Mercedes loves its action. It's running down in 15th place. Ju Won-seo is just trying to take the battle to Hiroaki Nagai in the number 8 ARN Racing Ferrari. They're not fighting really for points. They're outside the top 10, but they're fighting for pride at the moment. In behind them you can see one of the Craft Bamboo cars. That's Aidan Reed, who seems to have gained places, then lost them all over again. So he's fighting his way back in 991. And certainly as the Ferrari and the Mercedes fight so hard with each other, there's every opportunity for him to close right in. They're just going through turn 5. But our race leader, helped by the battling behind between Hamaguchi and now not Taniguchi but Dennis Lind. That 19 Lamborghini, the car that should have won yesterday but for the drive-through penalty, is made up so much ground. It's now second and third for the Lamborghinis. It's still Hamaguchi in front, but he won't be for much longer. The pace with which the 19 car of Dennis Lind has closed in. Not so long ago when he took it over, it was nowhere really near the sharp end. But he's absolutely flying, Dennis Lind. In the background, you can see the Nissan now demoted to 4th, and he's got Leo Yi tucked in behind in the number 27 Ferrari. So it's a lot of action, but clear by 14.6 seconds. Alexander Matchell will be counting it down towards the finish. Leading very comfortably at the moment. Yesterday he had that massive blowout that led to him limping back and the car dropping way down the order, even before Maxi Boot got to take it over. But today it looks that it's going to be very sweet indeed. And if he goes on to win, that will be 4 wins for 4 different driver combinations in the 2 Group M GT3 Mercedes. So it's looking very strong indeed for them. But there have been challengers and challenges with no puncture today, the 888. But don't forget, this is the Pro-Am class. Group M Mercedes looking very good indeed. Lapping comfortably the high 1 minute 35 second bracket. Some of the chases can do 1 minute 34s, some can even do 1:33s, but they're 14, 15, 20 seconds behind. Well, they're still fighting to get that AMAC Lamborghini back into the race, but these 2 extra pit stops have proved very costly indeed, and deciding they needed more than 2 mechanics working on it, they moved it back into the garage, and then you can have as many mechanics as you like. But they're working on the front left corner. Earlier problem was the rear left corner. 19 now ahead of 63. Dennis Lind has made the move. He is now going to see what he can do, how much he can close in with 12 minutes remaining on the race leader. But he's going to have to get more than a second a lap back out of the race leader to catch him and then try and find a way to pass him. But certainly on yesterday's form, Dennis Lind is very much in control of the Lamborghini. And for FF Racing Team, they've not had a win in Blancpain Asia Series, but looking very good for at least one set of drivers, but possibly both sets of drivers to finish on the podium today. That will give them a bit of a boost. 999 back into the race, but tumbled in Patrick Niederhauser's hands, down to 16th place with that drive-through penalty. And it looks as though there's a problem for the car in second place. Hiroshi Hamaguchi in the 63. If I can read my screen right, he's got a stop and go plus 7 pecks. A stop and go penalty where he has to be stationary for 7 seconds. Can't tell you for why, but certainly the race steward's been very busy indeed. The 999 car, yesterday's race winner in the afternoon, though has had its penalty. Number 7 has had a penalty as well. That's Andrew Kim now at the wheel. So these are cars that should be in the top 10, and they're not because they have had indiscretions. Car 27 just moved up to 4th place as Hamaguchi comes in for a drive-through penalty. That has been issued with a drive-through penalty as well. Oh, track limits. In fact, it was track limits. No, 63. I can't tell you why it was being penalised. So the 86 car stop and go penalty. You can see in the background Aditya Patel making his wanted stop. So he who keeps his nose clean has a very good chance this race. Don't forget the 63 Lamborghini went up to 2nd place. So all the work of Marco Mappelli has been thrown away. But it could well have been Mappelli who was being pinged. Just the fact that the car had been taken over by Hiroshi Hamaguchi. And so problems for those getting drive-through penalties, problems for those with mechanical problems as well, most notably the AMAC Lamborghini. So this one is one of the fallen but still going, the 63 car, with that drive-through penalty proving very costly indeed. So there I was moments ago saying FFF Racing Team might get one, if not two sets of drivers on the podium. Well, their only hope is one set of drivers, and that set of drivers will be Dennis Lin and Martin Kodrick. They are closing in on the race leader, but look at the clock at the top of the screen. 9 minutes and 20 seconds until we've reached the end of the hour. Then we will complete that particular lap, the lap the race leader is on. But I don't think there's going to be enough time, however heroic Dennis Lin is, as he uses all his Lamborghini experience. He was European Lamborghini champion some while back, a couple of years ago, 2016. Knows his Lamborghinis very well indeed, but he's going to have to be right on his toes. He's taken another second out in the last lap alone, second and a bit. Good to see the AMAC Lamborghini back out there on the circuit, but it's now really going for testing mileage because it's down 27th out of the 29 runners. Quick refresher, GT-R is still being led by Reinhold Renger by 16 seconds from the other Mercedes, the team I raced to win entry of Ringo Chong. Third in the class is Kenny Rata, the 82 BMW. They've had their hopes, had their chances, but it hasn't manifested itself in glory as yet. So Alexander Matchell pressing on. Yesterday he was hit suddenly by a punch, a big blowout. Of course the car to limp back, and it ended up eventually 2 laps down. In fact, it could have been 1 lap down, but it slotted in just behind the sister car. Rode shotgun for a bit and just made sure that it wasn't challenged too hard by Nick Foster's Ferrari. But today, no need for a shotgun. Yes, the gap's coming down 11.2 seconds and a few moments being lost going around the Morsang Racing, the gold and blue, wonderful livery that. The Porsche Cayman in GT4, but when you're sitting on an advantage of a dozen seconds or so, you can afford to shed a second here, a second there, but not on a continual basis, of course. Second car at GT4, Ringo Chong, number 72. The 22 car behind him is a lap further down, so doesn't have to worry about that one. The race leader slashes his way through. It was 11.2, looks like about 9 seconds, 9.4 seconds, so Dennis Lin continues to chase. He's got 7.5 minutes remaining. That last lap he closed in by 1.7 seconds. I could leave you to do the maths, but I think he's just not going to be doing quite enough. It's going to be close though. Let's watch how the chase unfolds. So good to see Andrew McPherson is getting more than a few laps now. The 51 Lamborghini has been coaxed back into the race. Bodywork taped up in front of the front left corner, and unfortunately drive-through penalty from Leo Ye has undone all the work that Nick Foster did. That came out of third position. So really for quite a lot of these runners they're going to look at what caused them to get such catastrophic penalties. Track limits is the predominant one. It was track limits at turn 4, the corner where the left-hander, where they come back around into the view of the main grandstand. Well, in fact, you can see them from further away. That's one of the beauties of the Chang International Circuit. But for the 27 Ferrari, unfortunately, their run of really good points finishes of 4th, 5th and 2nd in the first 2 races at Sepang. The first race here is not going to lead to points today, I wouldn't have thought. Or if so, a much smaller helping than they should have got. But heading possibly for the full fat delivery of points, the 888 Group M Racing Mercedes starts its 33rd lap. The gap had come down to 9.4 seconds last time around. How much further has it fallen? Waiting for the Lamborghini to cross the line. It might have actually gone out. 8.8, but it looks as though the response is coming from Alexander Matchell. He certainly picked up his pace by about a second, but it could well have been traffic the previous time around. Alexander, one of the older drivers in the field, he's now just turned 46, raced Porsche, the German Championship, long ago, back in the mid-90s. Then did a lot of events in the Nürburgring 24 Hours, such a fine race. Raced Ferraris 2011, but then since the advent of Blancpain GT Racing, he's been a staunch supporter, racing across a handful of seasons. But this will be novelty, heading for Pro-Am victory for the driver who's sort of acknowledged as the, if not the top, one of the top 2 or 3 practitioners, Maxi Buch, a master with that 3-pointed star on the nose. Getting a bit of challenging these days from Raffaele Marciello, and Raffaele raced in the opening rounds at Sepang and of course took victory in the second of those with Bryce Bosey. But so we had wholesale driver changes at Group M Racing. And now we really are in the final countdown. Chance for team members to talk to their drivers. That's Craft Bamboo Racing. 8.8 seconds down. Don't get confused, that's a different Mercedes in the background. That's the Indigo Racing version tucked in behind Dennis Lind as Lind puts another lap on it. 991 Porsche. Aidan Reed was down in 16th, has worked his way up to 12th, making his way forward again. But his next target is Juwon Seo in that Indigo Racing. There it is, the 97 Mercedes, and there is Aidan Reed in the background. So it looks as though Juwon Seo is probably far enough clear not to be challenged for the 11th position. Are we going to have any more driver penalties? 999 Patrick Niederhausen has already had one driver penalty, and they've got a final warning for track limits. So the race is closing, but getting towards the close. But the race stewards are still very busy indeed, looking at the screens. 8.5 seconds. It continues to come down, that gap from first to second. But a car that's been in the battles twice with extra pit stops, the 51 AMAC Lamborghini, driven now by Andrew McPherson, but started with Ben Porter, and the car's been given a clash. That's something for Renai to talk to. Renai, down to you with Ben Porter.
Ben, lots of stuff going on out there. What's happening with you guys?
We're having a real bad day, I've got to say. Unfortunately, I had an ABS problem into the last turn early in my stint. That caused us to damage a tyre. Ultimately, that led it to fail, and we had to pit. Boys did a good job to get the car running again and fix all the problems. Then, unfortunately, once we went to Andrew, he had a touch-up with another car, again causing us a little bit more damage and another pit stop. So things are going from bad to worse.
Challenging day for you guys. Thanks for talking to us.
Well, I guess it was best that Ben didn't know about that last incident. So another touch-up with another car for Andrew McPherson. They're clashing with a GT4 Porsche Cayman, and it's not making it back home. But what it is doing is putting waved yellow flags around the circuit. And I'll tell you who'd be delighted about that. It means the challenger was the 22 car, unfortunately. That was one of the three local teams, JWD Unix Racing. A little bit of damage down there. So let's have a look. Here's the Lamborghini. Andrew McPherson goes past the Morsang Racing Cayman and up the inside, and I think we can remove any blame whatsoever from Andrew McPherson, because I'm afraid he was assaulted rather than the assaultee. And unfortunately there for Charvadin Budit Katsada, he was a little ambitious, and there's a sort of saying in racing, when the luck deserts you, you get everything that can be possibly thrown at you. For the 51 Lamborghini team up from Australia, this is a meeting. Hopefully they'll have a good evening, but on the track it's not been their day. Running in the AMP class in GT3, here for the fun, and unfortunately being assaulted like that is not real fun. And Budit Kutsada looks a little bit shaken by the impact, but the marshals guide him away. But just looking at various points on the circuit to see what colour flags we've got waved. Obviously a waved yellow flag by the Lamborghini, because that's sitting at the side of the track. But we're into the final 2 minutes of the race, and gap from first to second continues to come down, 7.7 seconds. There is the 888 Mercedes, and it looks like it's come down way more than that, about 6 seconds, 5.699 seconds. But that's enough, surely, for Alexander Matchell to bring it home in the lead of the race. Dennis Lind, mighty stint yesterday to work his way from 5th or so up to the lead of the race. Then, cruelly, that drive-through penalty took away chance of victory, left them with 5th place today. Despite all the heroics, starting down in 9th place, wasn't the best place to be. They lost ground, fell to 11th in that opening stint, but Dennis Lind has been absolutely mighty, and he can walk with his head very high indeed. But I'm afraid it looks like it's going to be the second step of the podium for the Group M, keeping their 100% record in the 2018 Blancpain GT Series Asia. But the challenges are there or thereabouts, but still this gold standard set by Group M Racing is the reason they continue to win the races. It needs a few of the other teams just to make sure they deliver the perfect, not the slightly flawed job that they have been doing. They've had challenges, and we know for sure that if it wasn't for a mishap, well, the Morsang Racing Cayman at the side of the circuit, the marshals deciding maybe not to stand right next to it. This is the final lap of the race. There is Maxi Book, and surely with that advantage of 5.699 seconds going on to the final lap, that should be enough. The 82 BMW M4 from Japan, one of the two Team Studi cars, keeps out of the way into the final corner, turn 12. out of the 12 turns on the circuit. There is the checkered flag. 2 races, 2 wins over 2 days. 1 for the 999 Group M entry yesterday, and today it was the 888 crew that take victory. Dennis Lind at the end, 3.77 seconds down. Yet another win in this category for Maxi Buch. But for Alexander Matchell, he will be truly delighted with that victory. Just waiting for the car that's going to come home in 3rd place, and it should be the number 23 Nissan that's worked its way ahead of the 18 sister car. They've had their ups and downs, but I think if they can join all the dots properly, they will be up on the higher steps of the podium, surely. But GT4 coming through to take victory. 2nd win in 2 days for Reinhold Renger in the 666 Mercedes. So it's Mercedes 1st, Lamborghini 2nd, and Nissan 3rd for the overall honours. For Pro-Am honours, it's that race-winning car that's taken all the glory. 888. And In-Am with the AMAC Lamborghini having fallen off the circuit, had its own problems. It's a runaway win for the only other car in the class, which is Takeda in the 45 KCMG Audi, sharing with the driver who started, Takuya Shirasaka. But for Alexander Matchell, just enjoying the run-in. He's done the job. He didn't have a blowout today, which obviously makes life rather happier for him there. And will just come back in to be greeted in Parc Fermé by his teammate Maxi Buch, who's been there, seen it, done it. But these are higher grounds, thinner air, it must be said. There is Maxi Buch congratulating the Group N crew, but for Alexander Matchell, that will be a very, very special result indeed. In GT4, just want to confirm that Ringo Chong came home in 2nd place in the 2nd of the Mercedes. 3rd place went to the number 82 BMW, Ken Urata, bringing it to the finish. So at the end of the race, the challenges were there in the early parts of the race from that yellow Ferrari in the background with Tim Slade at the wheel. Maurice Chen couldn't quite match that pace, and it eventually tumbled down the order to 16th position. But we had quite a few cars coming through for drive-through penalties as well, which took them out of the reckoning. But for the 888 Mercedes crew, it's been a very enjoyable afternoon of racing. Their 1 hour is up. The heat in the cockpit will be high. Just trying to see who is that driver out to greet. Is that Maxi Buch? I think going out to greet. Yeah, shoulders shrugging. Alexander Matchell not entirely sure where to stop, but I'm sure they can push the car to the right location. But there's Maxi out to congratulate Alexander. And I'm sure we'll see a very, very happy German face shortly when Alexander gets out of the car, removes his helmet. Bronze level driver, don't forget, in Pro-Am you have to have a bronze, and then you can have platinum, gold or silver level driver. But oh yes, you can see the adrenaline is still pumping for Alexander Matchell, so he will be delighted. Group M Racing will be delighted, and Maxi Buch continues to deliver with the 3-pointed star for Mercedes. And here are the cars, the top 3. You can see the number 23 Nissan there in the middle of that grouping, the 82 BMW 3rd from the right, that came 3rd in the GT4 class. The GT4 winner was the 666 Mercedes, as it was yesterday. And there is the car, the KCMG Audi, that won the GT3 AM class. So, plenty of excitement, and a lot of team coaches and team bosses will be saying to their drivers, why did you run over the side of the circuit? Because you could have been coming home 6th or 7th or 8th or even 3rd, and you've ended up with a drive-through penalty. Don't forget, yesterday, of course, we lost the car that finished 2nd today, Dennis Lind. They ended up in 5th. They could have won the race, but they had a mandatory pit stop time, and they went a 2nd under it, and they paid the price. Lost them 4 places, and they ended up 5th. But we've had 4 driver pairings win the 4 opening rounds for Group M Mercedes, and let's speak to the 4th Group M Racing winning duo of Maxi Buch and the driver who brought it home, Alexander Matchell, down with Renai.
Alexander, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great race. I must say, Max did everything, so I just had to finish it. But it was pretty hot in the car, and I'm really enjoying this here.
Hot day, hot racing. Max?
It was okay. I was some 1 or 2 moments where it was a bit close, where to defend, but overall the car was perfect. Alex did an amazing job, Group M as well, so it was a perfect race.
Okay, a great weekend from Group M. Congratulations, enjoy that.
Very well done for getting down so quickly to the winning duo, and Alexander Matchell, I think, underplaying his role. He did it precisely what was required of him. And Maxi Buch also not underplaying the fact he was pushed very hard indeed by Tim Slade in the opening stages of the race, made to work for it. But in fact, that's what drivers like, isn't it? They like to be able to deliver when they're being pushed 100%. Deliver at their best, not go out and cruise. That's what racing is all about. So lots of happy faces down there. You can see all the handshakes all around for all the people who are at the bottom of the podium, because of course they've done well enough to finish in the top 3, or in the top 3 in their class, or in the top 3 in their category, which is GT4. There were 2 Mercedes at the top of that, and 1 BMW moving ahead of the Porsche Caymans. But great racing. The fans here at the Chang International Circuit have clearly enjoyed all of the action. They were very passionate up and down the pit lane today, taking photographs and selfies with everyone and everything they could find. And it's great to see people who are relatively new to motor racing coming and enjoying this fantastic facility in Thailand. There is the car that finished second. Martin Kodrick started. Dennis Lind, absolute star, got it up to second place, and by the end 3.77 seconds was all the deficit. That he cut it right down to that, and it was about 15 seconds when he got on board, so that was a mighty drive from Dennis Lind. And third place went to Eduardo Liberati and Florian Strauss. Their sister car, number 18, ended up with drive-through penalty, and that... sorry, they didn't. In fact, it was Liberati and Strauss who had the drive-through penalty. I misplayed that one. So that was a truly great drive for them. They had the 2 runs into the pits. One would have been better. But just watch out in future races for those KCMG Nissans. But we wanted to hear from Martin Kodrick and Dennis Lind, and Renai has answered our prayers. She is down with the crew, the number 19 Lamborghini crew, who took second place.
Congratulations, Dennis. I'll talk to you first. What was that like?
It was pretty cool. It was really hot. I think it was even hotter than Malaysia this time around, so struggling a bit with overall performance in the tires and the brakes, and racing like this in these conditions is fantastic because every lap is different. So really good job to the whole team, very good job to Lamborghini for bringing us on a strong car, and Martin did a fantastic job in stint 1 to keep as many as possible in behind him, and yeah, it was perfect from there.
Okay, incredible turnaround from yesterday's race, yes?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday's race was going all our way until the unlucky pit stop. So, yeah, we made a really good recovery for today. We knew we were there, and we had to bring it home. And, yeah, today's race went really well. We got the points, which is good. We bounced back from yesterday very well. So, yeah.
So I hope it makes this one much more sweeter. Congratulations.
So that's the second place result they had. They had one in the opening race at Sepang. They took a 6th place, 5th place yesterday, but the pace is right there. They're a very, very well-balanced pairing, and certainly I think all of their rivals will be very wary now of the FFF racing team with its 2 Lamborghinis. And Marco Mappelli, just a little shout-out for him, ended up down in 10th place with Hiroshi Hamaguchi, but could have been so much more, but for that drive-through penalty. Don't forget, he rose from 19th to 5th by running a very late pit stop, but the 63 crew could be in the mix again in future rounds. Good to see the smiles too from the BMW Team Studi crews down there. There's great promise, but at the moment they just don't have the luck, or maybe slightly also the form as well, to keep up with the 666 Group M Mercedes that's tackled single-handedly by Reinhold Renger to lead the GT4 class. But they're there or thereabouts, and who knows, it could turn their way when we go to the next round on one of their home circuits at Suzuka. But let's take a look at the results, and here it is. Maxi Buch started the 888 Mercedes, brought home by Alexander Matschel, but only 3.77 seconds over the charging Dennis Lind in those closing stages. But look, big advantage to those 2 Nissans. Liberati and Strauss with 2 visits to the pits, plus Taniguchi Matsuda. They're right there, 3rd and 4th places. The best of the Audis in 5th, so it shows the Audi crews have got a little bit to do. And yesterday's winner, Niederhauser and Pommer, drive-through penalty, and that's why they're down in 13th place. But the driver who finished 19th overall took victory in GT4, Reinhold Renger, 2 wins in 2 days. He's down on the track with Renai.
A bumper weekend for you, Reinhold. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It was unexpected, to be honest. It was super hot today, but the car was really stable from the start to the beginning, and I couldn't take the lead after 2 laps, and so I could make my speed also, and I guess this was then the goal to the win.
You do it in front of a stand full of fans. I mean, the fans here love it. Is Thailand now one of your favorite places to race?
I hope to, yeah. So the track is really beautiful. I like this country. I really like it. And fans are passionate, so many spectators. Thank you very much to you all. It makes much more fun when you have so many people firing up you, and so it's nice.
Okay, enjoy your wins this weekend.
Thank you very much for Renai. So it has been a mighty weekend for Reinhold Renger. 2 wins in 2 days in the GT4 class. But certainly the proof is out there. Look at the pace of Ringo Chong. He is there or thereabouts in the second of the Mercedes. And I certainly think go to Japan and those BMW Team Studio M4s will be even more in the mix. Particularly the number 81 crew of Sunaka Jukuchu and Takayuki Kinoshita. They look very handy indeed. So we have 5 podium ceremonies ahead to enjoy, and we will kick off with the overall penalty. So we have the podium underway shortly. You can see the drivers taking whatever shade they can find, a couple of canopies alongside the podium. But all is set for the podium ceremony, which is exactly how we want it to be. And all the bottles of fizz kept to the side, but the overall podium order, of course, will be the top 3 coming up. It should be the 888 crew, the 19 crew, but the first one up should be the number 23 crew of Eduardo Liberati and Florian Strauss.
Please welcome in car number 23, Eduardo Liberati and Florian Strauss.
So there's the announcement for the better place to the KCMG Nissan crews, and they worked very hard indeed. Ended up 21 seconds behind Dennis Lind. And not wanting to put their overalls back on because it just makes you even hotter. Florian Strauss actually can't get his shoulders in.
Dennis Lind and Martin Kodrich.
And I think special applause to Martin Kodrich and Dennis Lind. Could have been winners yesterday, came close to it today, but great to see a Lamborghini really showing very strongly in the Asian Series for the first time. But the 888 crew, Maxi Buch has won many, many races indeed for Mercedes, but for Alexander Matschel, the top step of an overall race podium is a very special place for him to be.
The trophies are presented by Tanai Siri Chanitabayorom, Managing Director of Chang International Circuit.
So here we have the man who should be very proud of the Chang International Circuit. He's the Managing Director, Tanasiri Chanavitavayorom, and he will present the trophies, and then Stefan Rattel, the CEO and founder of the SRO, will present the checks. And this is the first of 5 podiums. This is overall podium. And certainly a big, big smile on the face of Alexander Matschel and the more jockey-sized, racing driver-sized Maxi Buch alongside.
The checks are presented by Stefan Rattel, Chairman of SRO.
So here comes Stefan. It's great, it's wonderful to pick up the points, but when you get a check as well, it just adds to the atmosphere and hopefully the celebrations tonight. So it's $2,500 for third place, $5,000 for second place, 10,000. That's a very, very good evening out for the crew, and I'm sure the Group M mechanics will be lining up saying don't forget us, which of course no race team would ever do.
Smile for the cameras.
So congratulations to our overall top 3 enjoying their podium celebrations. We have 4 more podiums to come, but of course now you can afford to get your race suit smelling wet and very much of champagne. And for Dennis Lind, he sort of fell off the side of the podium, couldn't open his bottle, so he's going to be squirted before he can get any form of revenge spraying in. Yes, Alexander Matschel has the look of a very, very contented man indeed. Disappointment yesterday with the tyre blowout. Came here hoping to get Pro-Am win, but he certainly wouldn't have expected an overall victory, so it shows the Group M racing team very much on its toes on the moment, but they know full well the challenge is coming, and it's coming hard from FF Racing with its Lamborghinis in particular. I think also they ought to look over their shoulder for those KCMG Nissans that took 3rd and 4th overall today. They are coming on strong. Not sure the girl in blue is too impressed by Maxi Buch spraying the front of her dress as he left the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your podium for the GT3 Pro-Am.
Now it's GT3 Pro-Am runners.
Car number 37, Anthony Liu.
So 37, Anthony Liu and Josh Burden. 3rd place in the class. They had a drive-through penalty, so it's a case of what might have been. 2nd place, it's the car that finished 4th overall. It's Matsuda and Taniguchi in the 18 Nissan, so they do get a podium result. And Pro-Am winners, we've already met this duo, Alexander Matschel and Maxi Buch. Welcome them back onto the podium.
Presenting
we're
the
waiting.
trophy, Stefan Rattel from SRO.
Stefan Rattel this time will present the trophies to the Pro-Am third place crew. That's number 37 crew, Josh Burden and Anthony Liu. Second place crew, and big smiles on the faces of Taniguchi and Matsuda, and a pair of trophies for this event alone. And of course the Blancpain clock, always a popular trophy to take home as well. So Maxi Buch on the left and Alexander Matschel on the right. This is the Pro-Am podium, and then we will have the Am podium for the GT3 runners before we move to the GT4 podiums here at the Chang International Circuit. And for all these drivers, even those who did the first part of the race, still probably trying to cool down. It was very hot indeed. I think Dennis Lin commented that it was hotter even than Sepang in Malaysia for the opening round, and that was acknowledged as a very, very hot one. Track temperatures of about 60 degrees before they set out. That is very hot indeed, so keeping your tyres with their very best performance in them was really where a top racing driver earned their keep. So nice gentlemanly touching of the bottles all around, and the Pro-Am podium has come to a conclusion, and we're getting things set for the Am runners. So waiting for the Am finishers to get onto the podium, and
ladies and
top
gentlemen,
step
this is the podium for the GT3 Am.
should be for
Please welcome to
the
the podium your
KCMG
winners
crew.
in car number 45,
Car number
Naoto
45.
Takeda and Takuya Shirasaka.
So KCMG brought two Nissans that finished third and fourth overall, but they also brought the car that won the Am class, the Audi, Naoto Takeda and Takuya Shirasaka. Oh, we do have both of them. I was worried one had got lost up to the top of the podium. The only other car running in that class, unfortunately, was the 51 AMAC Lamborghini, but that ended up off the circuit, having had two problems in the race. So the winners, undisputed victors in the Am class. One finger up, just enjoying their time on the top step of the podium. I think it is really quite something. KCMG running not just two very effective Nissan NISMO GT-Rs, but also to be able to run at the same time an Audi in the Am class, and they get the trophies to go with it. So it's been a good weekend here in Thailand for the KCMG crew, and I think great promise for the future. It's been an enthralling hour of racing. Let's go back to the very beginning and take a look at the highlights. Maxi Buch was lining up on pole. Hard to see his Mercedes. So many VIPs here, so many fans packing the grandstand and the entire circuit, and so much passion here in Thailand. It's wonderful to see it. And at the start of the race, it was very tight indeed. From pole position, Maxi Buch held down the lead, but Adderley Fong came through to challenge. He would lose out around the opening lap. Various drivers running wide at turn one. That's normal. But Tim Slade up into second place, and then really, really pushing the Mercedes. That yellow Ferrari, very effective in the hands of the Australian. Nick Foster in third place in the early laps. Ooh, that's how you do your overtaking manoeuvres. Very solid indeed from Tsugio Matsuda as the Nissans work their way ever closer to the front of the race. The GT4 class, Reinhold Renger was beaten away at the start, but soon put his 666 Mercedes into the lead. And there he stayed at the front of the race. Maxi Buch also stayed at the front, but the challenge became ever more intense. Came down to about 0.3 of a second. Tim Slade got close, then they got to traffic, and despite these greatest of efforts from the Australian, Maxi Buch knew exactly where to put his AMG Mercedes to stay in front. It was a very, very strong performance of two drivers, absolutely on top of their game. Nick Foster had to really, really fight to try and keep the Nissan charge behind him, and Tsugio Matsuda really was a thorn in his side. Again, the underside, still the damage we saw yesterday on the back side of that 666 Mercedes. It was nothing to the damage on the left rear corner of the 51 AMAC Lamborghini. Then a little bit of rubbing between two Korean drivers. Juwon Seo rubbing the paint or down the side of Andrew Kim's Audi. That didn't help the Audi, that's for sure. Maurice Chen started to lose a little bit of ground in the 28 Ferrari, and I'm afraid all the work that was put in by Tim Slade in the early part of the race went away. This is GT4 battling. There are two Mercedes in the class, and for a while Ringo Chong got right up the inside and pushed the 666 car, but Renger retained the lead. Number 3 and 23, really fierce fighting. Martin Rump closing up in the final stages of the race, but the Nissans were coming and they kept on moving through. For the Craft Bamboo crew, it wasn't the greatest of weekends. They did fine in GT4, not in GT3. And then insult to injury, or injury to injury, because I'm afraid the AMAC Lamborghini, minding its own business, was cloused by the 22 Cayman, took them both out of the race, but no one took Alexander Matchel out of the race. He had a 15-second advantage when he took over from Maxi Bouk, but Dennis Lind moved up to second place in the 19 Lamborghini, but by the end the gap came down to 3.77 seconds, but that was enough, that was plenty. And finally Maxi Bouk in the garage, the Group M racing crew could celebrate again. 4 races for them, 4 victories in GT3, and they've come here and taken a double in the GT4 class as well. Really good strong running from Reinhold Renger, who will be truly exhausted. He did the entire race, whereas everybody else ran in 2 driver crews. Hot work, but hot work that made him very happy indeed. Maxi Bouk there to congratulate the crew. Then he went out on the grid and immediately got to see Alexander Matchel. A great performance for them. And here's Reinhold Renger just bringing it home. Victory in the GT4 class, exemplary performance, and for Group M there will be celebrations. So that is the end of a second meeting here for the Blancpain GT's Series Asia. 2 wonderful meetings here at the Chang International Circuit. The big question is, we're heading off to Japan next, to Suzuka. Can anybody take the battle to the Group M Racing Mercedes? I think we'll certainly see. FF Racing certainly will give it a go. That's it for now. Goodbye.